Now, you are Mr. Negative on this, and this is a little bit disturbing here, Brady Quinn, because, I'm looking around. I'm trying to be a positive influence here on this show because I'm looking at some of the NFL teams that think they might have a chance next year. And so I'm looking at just playoff teams. And I'm going, up and down the NFC, and I'm thinking, all right, well, Green Bay obviously is going to be in the running with Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady's back in Tampa Bay. Who else in the NFC? The Rams, obviously defending Super Bowl champions. Who else in the NFC should be taken seriously? And then I get to the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm like, well, that was a playoff team a year ago. I understand that it didn't look good in that playoff game against the Rams, but that was a playoff team a year ago.
They did lose to the defending Super Bowl champs, so something to be said for that.
And they beat them once last year, so it's not like they were a clean sweep against the Rams all season long. And then you got to go ahead and be Mr. Negative because, God forbid, they're going to be featured this upcoming season. I mean, what's your problem with them being featured on Hard Knocks? I don't get it. Why do you have to be so negative about it?
Weren't the Colts onto a nice little run until they were featured last year in season? It was just a death sentence.
Yes.
And I feel like every time Hard Knocks gets involved with a team, it never ends well. It's the season just goes off the rails at some point. And it's odd because they're filming throughout the course of training camp, so you're kind of watching as it's going on. It's not like if you're a part of it, you don't know what's going on, but it's weird. It's the curse. I mean, it's the curse of Hard Knocks. And we already know the Lions are going to get it for the preseason, although I don't know if people had high expectations for them. But for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals in what appears to be a pivotal year this year for them, that's a wrap. I don't know what – I think I'd picked them maybe to be a playoff team earlier, but, yeah, that ain't happening now.
It really is. So it's unfortunate. So the Arizona Cardinals are done. And if you think there's – this is all just sort of hocus-pocus garbage the Dallas Cowboys were featured last year at Hard Knocks, and we saw how that played out. And if I'm not
quite
mistaken,
possibly the worst final play of any game in the history of the NFL.
And not only has no team that's been featured on Hard Knocks never been to a Super Bowl, I don't think they've ever been to a conference championship, which is par for the course with Dallas over the last 30-plus years. But I don't think any team has ever been to a conference championship. So there is something to it. And we've got enough examples over and over and over again in years previous that there's got to be – it can't just be, a random occurrence. Like, it's happened over and over again. And now you've got the upcoming second season of the in-season Hard Knocks. To your point, Indianapolis completely melted down. They show up to Jacksonville. There's a clown out. You've got fans dressed up as clowns because the Jaguars are a clown organization, and Carson Wentz goes out there, and the Indianapolis Colts go out there and just figured out a way to lose. Maybe they were trying to get Pittsburgh into the playoffs. Maybe that was the whole plan there in Indianapolis. But, not a good look for the Arizona Cardinals. They'll be featured on Hard Knocks. On the when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, are you bothered? Because Cliff Kingsbury, he didn't seem too bothered, but Kyler Murray, he didn't show up for OTAs. Is that problematic? I know he wants a new contract, but kind of an important year based on the performance that we mentioned. Does Kyler Murray see them being featured on Hard Knocks and go, I need to stay away from that place for a little while? Like, is that how this is working?
Wouldn't you think, though? I mean, forget about that, but the contract's the biggest thing. If you were going into a pivotal fourth year, wouldn't you think being there around your teammates and training with them and trying to make sure everything is as good as it needs to be is the most important thing?
Yes.
Now, I know this is what players do when they're unhappy about their contract, and this is the only way of really displaying any sort of leverage. Like, okay, like, you don't want me to be your long-term answer? I won't show up for OTAs, which you don't have to, okay? They're not mandatory. Nothing matters until he would have to be there for their mandatory minicamp. And maybe he can skip that and face a small fine, but, that's where this whole thing's at. I just feel like as a quarterback, as a leader, it's a bad look. And I know most players are understanding of the business side of these things, but it's different for quarterbacks. And look, maybe he talked to Baker. And maybe Baker's like, yeah, man, I had a great third year. Thought everything was going to work out well. Wanted to bet on myself. Showed up for everything and still didn't work out for me. Now, granted, his season went a little different, but I don't know. Maybe they're having a conversation about the whole situation, saying you don't owe the organization anything. Do what you feel like is in your best interest right now, and then once you get there and have to show up, you go out and play well. But again, I think it's a bad sign for their team moving forward. If the guy who's going to be taking all those reps once the season starts isn't there, it's almost like setting on a bad course. But then you factor into Hard Knocks as well. I'm sure there's going to be some frustration that displays itself over the course of the season.
By the way, it feels like such a waste of time. Like the organization is going to all of a sudden take him more serious now because he didn't show up to OTAs. Like, does anybody think that Kyler Murray would actually have the balls to sit out this season if he doesn't get a contract? Does anybody think that? There's not a shot in hell that happens. To your point, quarterbacks just have to act differently. They can't do what other players can do, like a Le'Veon Bell or somebody like that, because they're perceived to be the leader of the team. So the idea that he wouldn't show up to OTAs to kind of make a statement, until I get a new deal, I'm not going to be around here. What a bunch of crap. Just feels like a waste of time.
You could say a waste of time. I mean, like I said, it's the only thing you can do in this position. It really is. And for people out there who are like, come on, man, he's missing out on all this stuff. Look, he knows the offense. He knew the offense the second Cliff Kingsbury was hired as the head coach. And the other thing is, that mandatory minicamp ends up being an accumulation of all the OTAs. So as you're going through your install, it's all the stuff that he already knows that they're just going to plug in on the mandatory minicamp. And then you're going to run for 3 days, and that's it. And then you're literally going to start back over once you get to training camp and install the same stuff you did through OTAs and that you finished with in minicamp, in training camp. Like, it's all the same stuff. It's not like you're reinventing the wheel every time you go there. So it's not that big of a deal. To me, it's more of the leadership element in the locker room. And when things start turning south this year, you don't want to be the reason or one of the reasons that people point to. And I think when you make this sort of act, or you say, hey, I'm going to stay away, it's going to be one of those things that builds up, and the locker room, the team could point to you and say, well, you weren't here. So of course, like, what do you expect? Like, we've been building up, every single year we've gotten better since you've been here, but you did something different. You decided not to show up for this, and that's obviously a problem.
I mean, I don't know why you would say things are going to go south. I mean, they usually finish strong in Arizona. I don't understand why you would even go there.
Well, they usually get off to a fast start, but they're not going to have DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games.
But don't worry about it. It was
there's an appeal there going on, isn't there?
I think so. Minus 150. Minus 150. The Cardinals, will they make the playoffs? Minus 150, no. So there's some people feeling like
did that go down since the announcement of Hard Knocks?
I don't know.
It'd be amazing if the Hard Knocks was a market mover. Like, it could actually move a line.
Money is going in on yes, plus 125 on the yes for the Cardinals. Or money is coming in strong on no. So you can't get plus money if they do make the playoffs. But I think there's a lot of people that look at Arizona and go, all right, well, maybe we're not so optimistic about their chances. So there's that. So bummer, just a bummer. But you know what? Hey, you did have that Kurt Warner era, so that's not all bad news there.